Everything you tried, it's not working, and now you have to call the parents and you're worried. How do you make a positive parent contact? So you know the students by name, you're catching the kids doing the right thing, you're doing the work of building engaging lessons, you're self-aware. When you're triggered, you've used the 4 questions we've talked about, the think sheet twice, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. At this point, it's hard not to take this personal or be upset because all you've invested already. I hear you. But if you've gotten to this point, I want you to take a moment to congratulate yourselves. You've given so much opportunity for that student to consider a better way. And even though it may not seem like progress has been made because, the behavior is ongoing, sometimes kids are learning what it means to become an adult, and that includes making decisions that are sometimes the wrong decision. I don't recommend learning that way, but some people do learn that way. Maybe you had an experience like that when you were younger with a teacher or a family member or a coworker, and as you kind of reflect back, you think, you know what, maybe I should have not handled it that way. So even though things are not going the way you hoped, take time to affirm yourself and be proud of yourself. You've already shown a lot of compassion to this student. But you do have a class to run. Learning needs to happen, and it's not happening with just your efforts alone. So this is your mission. You want the parent as your partner. I'm going to say this again. You want the parent as your partner. This is what you wouldn't want happening, by the way. What you wouldn't want happening is the parent saying, this teacher, he or she has it out for my kid and just keeps on picking on my kid. You wouldn't want to leave that kind of impression. So let me share 5 tips on how to make a positive parent contact. Here's tip number 1. Already have a positive relationship established. Now, hopefully this is not the first time you're having to make the call home. Hopefully you've made some positive contact prior. There's this one student I had before, let's call him Johnny, and I thought, man, it's going to be a long year. There was another adult in my class who made a parent contact, and I asked, so how did that go? He mentioned that he actually gave an affirmation. I was a little skeptical, and I said, really? Well, that teacher found something positive and made a positive contact. And he said when calling the student's parent, when the parent initially heard it was the school that was calling, it was like he was expecting there would be some problem. But when my co-teacher said, no, I just want to give a positive affirmation, it really pleased the parent. The co-teacher told me, you know what? We might be working with this family quite a bit this year, so it doesn't hurt to start off with some goodwill. I'm so thankful for that wisdom that I received from my colleague. So before you make the parent contact, hopefully you've already made a positive contact and positive impression in advance. Maybe it was through a phone call like I just shared, or through an email, or a video introduction, or at back to school night. If you haven't seen my video on how to have a positive impression on back to school night, please see the description. So tip number 1, already have established a positive relationship. Tip number 2, make the call when you're in a good state of mind. You want to make the phone call that's going to help you, right? So what you don't want to do is to make that phone call after all this good work you've done, and then somehow that parent contact backfires because you weren't in that best condition. And now you got like a bigger problem in your hands. In a previous classroom management video, I talked about not disciplining a child when you're feeling frustrated, irritated, or hangry. I would say the same would go for calling parents. So make sure when you call, you're in a good state of mind. Tip number 3, remember, the parent is your partner. I want you to think about your own child or niece or nephew. You love them, right? So does this parent. They love their child. So go in with an appreciative lens. This parent loves their child probably a lot more than we do, and wants a good teacher for this child and wants to partner with you to make that happen. So in order to guide me when I meet with the parent, I do have questions that oftentimes help me to stay on track. Some questions include, can you help me to understand your family and how things are going with your child at home? Sometimes I'll hear stories of what's going on in the lives of our students, and that's all I needed to hear to be the teacher that I need to be for that student. Very rarely have I gotten to the point with working with a student where everything is just fine in the student's life. Next question. What are your expectations for your child to follow the teacher's direction in the classroom? Let the parents share with you their advice. Do you have, I might even ask, do you have advice for me on how I can help your child in meeting that expectation? It's very difficult for the parent to think you are being unreasonable if you're taking their advice, which is oftentimes similar, if not better, than what you would have advised in the first place anyway. And if it's classwork related, asking what are expectations of your child to complete classwork or homework. As you hear the parents share, I think you're going to feel the partnership growing. Tip number 4, remember what the parent shared. There are so many things I'm doing. If I don't take notes, I struggle to remember the details. So I'll take notes as the parents are sharing. Sometimes I'll use this matrix when calling a parent. And definitely if I'm having a face-to-face meeting in a student parent-teacher conference, I'll use a form like this. Number 5, restate the plan. Afterwards, repeat everything you decided to do. When you repeat what was shared, oftentimes you'll see parents start to relax because they were nervous about your call as well, and now you're reaching a good resolution. At the very least, the parent will say, teacher, Dr. Kim, at the very least, he heard what I said. And remember, just listening is a great work and act of compassion. Afterwards, in a few weeks or months, you can even reach out, give a little progress update, and hopefully things are better. So those are my 5 steps to making a positive parent contact. You'll note at this point, I haven't needed to call an administrator, and I've rarely written a referral in my 20 years for these kinds of things. And if for some reason I did need to involve an administrator, if I'd gone through all these steps and documented my Tier 1 first best instruction practices, I'm sure I'd be supported. If you've made it to this point of needing to make a parent contact, thank you for your good work you've already done. Even though things aren't perfect, I hope you can be proud of yourself for being a compassionate professional and giving it your best. And I hope the 5 tips will help you to make a positive parent contact that allows you to partner with the parent in supporting your student. This is Dr. Jeff from EdFamily, signing out.